Duck and cover.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Classical Music. I'm Andrew Byrne, and joining me as a special guest host is Mara Winter.
Hello.
Should you say your own name?
I can. What's happening? What's our...
I'll say, and joining me as a special co-host.
Mara Winter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Classical Music. I'm Andrew Byrne, and joining me as a special guest host is...
Mara Winter.
And our actual interview guest today is a Spanish but Swiss-based Fortepianist, Laura Granero, who's also in the winter of 2021 and 2022 based in Vienna. And we will talk a little bit about that. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me here.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
That's fine, we keep going. Last time we saw each other, it was July 2021, and we had met after a concert. And what I had seen was that the last time we had seen each other was probably pre-pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was surprised to see that you had, starting in the end of August and going until October, you had organized, or there were a number of concerts where you were playing solo, and you had this whole, calendar set up. How did that go?
Yeah, it went well. Actually, it already happened in July, in the beginning, and then it was there was a bit of a break in the summer, but then by the end or mid-August, and it was till October. Quite full.
And also in Spain?
Yes, in Spain, in France, and Germany, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was not only solo, it was also with some ensemble and also for some forehand playing.
I guess my question right up front is, for someone like me, of course you've got to organize, you have to think about this months in advance, right? And what would have been difficult for me in maybe 6 months before these concerts would be to put them on the calendar and actually work towards them. How was that for you?
It was indeed difficult, and it was even more difficult because I had just started my PhD. Mm-hmm. So actually the Frühling semester, like they call it, like the spring semester, was just me sitting at the computer all the time. And then in June started preparing for all the different programs that I had to play. So it was quite stressful, I must say.
Yeah, how do you balance the two things?
Not balancing.
I think that's what
in
most
July,
people say.
I think I was quite burned out, actually, when we met. It was difficult. It was really difficult. But yeah, it was. I knew that I wanted to do as much as possible because that semester was online in Vienna. So I wanted to take the opportunity that I was not having concerts, actually, to do something else and to do research. And precisely for that, so that when things would be back to normal, I would have to do just my dissertation and a bit more, but not so much. And but it was really a stressful summer, and also the problem of different programs, which is something that freelancers have to face many times.
How many different programs was it?
I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
My God.
Yes, it was 5. I think it was supposed to be 6, but it was really a lot. I mean, most of the concerts were with different programs.
And when we say different programs, were some of the pieces switching?
Only in one case between two concerts. So, but it's a bit of the problem when you play fortepiano, actually. I mean, it's more extreme, for example, with organ, that they go to a place and it's a completely different organ, and they need several days to get used to the new organ and to know it. With fortepiano, it's not so extreme, but as there are not so many, it's like, hey, here we have a Viennese of 6 octaves. Could you play this? And then here we have a late romantic. Can you play I don't know, Bach list? And then we have a classical one, or can you do this? And like, I depend so much on the instrument that is around that doesn't make it easy, so to say. And also, of course, if you go to a museum, then also sometimes then you can pick one instrument or the other, but you depend very much on the instruments.
We're already going into the area which we want to talk
Yes,
about.
we were already discussing. You led us so beautifully into this topic. So this is a very alien subject to me because I just bring my flutes wherever I go. I don't say, oh, you guys have this nice romantic flute there. I guess I'll come and design a program for it. I mean, I guess some people might do that, but me, no. But how did you... Was it you who is setting up the concerts, or was it people saying, hey, we have this great historical instrument. Will you come and do a program at this place?
Yes, most of them were like this. Actually, all of them were like this. Yeah.
Okay, because we were wondering what it's like as somebody who plays a historical keyboard instrument, how you deal with the instrument all the time, because you can't travel with your own.
Yes.
Right? So
it's
what
like,
is this like?
like for modern pianists, it's already, and they complain. They shouldn't complain, but they are like, oh, there's not a piano everywhere, and then I have to get used to the pianos, and it's basically, well, it's not so problematic, but with us it's really extreme because, and sometimes, well, in Spain even more, I have to then bring my own fortepiano to the places, or someone, usually they pay transportation and they do the transport, someone else, a professional does it. I could do it because it fits into my father's car, but...
So when you say my fortepiano, you mean one which is in Spain?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Mine, I have it in Spain because in Central Europe it's a bit easier to find instruments, so I have one there. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I guess when you say it fits into my father's van,
Car,
is that a dangerous procedure? You know, like, because I know some professionals who will not move it themselves. It has to be moved professionally. Not fortepiano in this case, harpsichord, but you have never had a problem.
I mean, most of the times I try that I don't have to do the transportation myself, and I also, you also get to know people who do it for a cheap price that are like half professionals, and they are not like these professional companies that are super expensive. But what I usually is just, I know someone to ask who can maybe help us transporting it, and then it's quite economically. But if possible, yes, I prefer not to do it. Of course, it's a danger for the instrument because mine is also an original one, so it's even like a historical danger.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if not, I mean, it's then you don't play concerts. So
Right.
Or you have to play with someone else for the piano, and it's at the end I never know what is like, because if you play with other ones for the piano, it's probably very different from everything you know, and then you have to adapt to it. But on the other hand, even if they just come to your house and take your instrument, you have to prepare so many things for the instrument to be like well packed and all the stuff, and so that at the end is also a lot of work. Yeah.
I know that some, especially the modern pianists, the ones who complain, the ones that were this sort of thing, that generally they can get 2 hours with the instrument before a concert, and then they'll perform. Is that enough for someone like you?
Well, actually, I had this now in France, that they had brought fortepiano from Germany from a very nice collector. And it was, I chose it without knowing it because it was an original, I think Italian, but with Viennese mechanic, and it looked super beautiful in the pictures and had a lot of pedals, and I was like, yeah, this looks like fun. But then we got to the festival where we could even, I mean, I had to play some solo piece and then with a trio. And we realized that there was basically almost no rehearsing time. And I had to get to know this fortepiano with all kind of combinations of pedals, and decide also where I was going to use what pedal. And I think in total I got around 2 hours, one like at 11 in the night before, and another one in the middle of the day of the concert. And it was enough to save the concert, and it was decent. But because this particular fortepiano, as the restorer told me, it's one that fortepianists usually don't choose because it's so difficult and it's very delicate, so you actually need a lot of time. So I struggled a lot. But usually, I would say that if you don't know the instrument and it's quite particular, it's really in the limit. And especially if you have also to rehearse with your colleagues, because my colleagues were like, we want to rehearse. And I was like, I know, but I need to practice. I mean, now the octaves are of a different size and I have to adapt things and fingerings and
Wow. Do you have any horror stories from this? From strange instruments or transporting your own instrument?
I think, well, in some museums, like some of them they have like restored it, but not really. And then you get there, and then I had the situation of having to mark what notes were not, what keys were basically sounding very little, and which one needed that I put it up again. And then I had also a horrible story of a fortepiano. Like, it was in one of the most important halls in Madrid, and because I'm from Madrid, it was like my dream as a girl. I was always going there to the concerts, and they were the only place almost where they were programming fortepiano concerts. And then apparently there were 6 hammers that got broken that week, and they had sent them to repair. And like the organizer was telling me 2 days before the concert, like, could you learn a Beethoven program instead of a Schumann program, because we might only get a classical instrument. And I was like, okay. And then I spent the 2 days before the concert practicing the Beethoven program. And then the day of the concert, or the night of before, I don't remember, the hammers came
and I had to play again.
And then oh no!
Yes, it's a bit horror movie.
Did they adjust your fee at least, or?
No. Definitely not. I should be happy that I played the concert. No, I mean, they were very nice due to the circumstances.
Okay.
Probably would have gotten paid even if the concert got cancelled, but still, it was really stressful. And of course, it was live streamed.
The infamous live.
The audio was for 1 month online, and it was like, sometimes as a musician, you would like to be able to write like a tiny comment or a post saying, "Yeah, this was what happened," just for the people to know. This is not me, but yeah, there were nice things.
I know what you mean. That I was once, the one situation where something even close to this happened to me was where I was asked to perform in Canada, coming from Switzerland, and it was one of these situations. I never play in Canada for like a major thing. I usually, it's like, are you on holiday or something? Yes, I'll play. And in this case, no, you're coming, okay. And then when I landed in Toronto, I found out that the concert was at 392 hertz, and I needed another instrument. And you could hear me shout. Anyone who ever in 2017 heard a "ah" in June, that was me.
No.
And I had to find another instrument, and I made it work. Like it by the magic. I got this instrument which I played like 5-6 years ago before that, and I somehow made it to work, and we played the concert, and there was no problem, or concerts, and the comments were all like, "Oh, this is so great! You're playing so great," and I was like, "This is not my voice," which is exactly what you just said.
Exactly.
And I was like, "Yeah, I put a Band-Aid on the hole, and the water isn't coming in anymore." But it wasn't like, "This is me." It was just trying to fix the problem which was created by somebody else. And that's hard, isn't it, where you're limited by the instrument?
Yeah. In my case, I was happy because at least, happy and not happy. The thing was that technically the concert wasn't perfect, so then I suffer for 1 month thinking of people listening to the audio. But the good part is that I got the video, and now I have some. I mean, musically at least I managed to be myself. So I have some nice excerpts, but it's a bit of yeah, it's difficult, especially when it is in such a big place and everything. And
But wow, how amazing that you constantly adapt to an instrument like that. Like that's a real talent.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I wouldn't have to do it, but I think it's also something to learn. And I think, all freelance musicians struggle with this. That at some point when these concerts were people asking me to play, but at some point you have also to think, is it maybe better just that I try to organize these things, or that I get a manager or someone to help me so that I don't have to be stressed like hell? Because I don't know, I have the impression that nowadays also people are very proud of, I mean, of course, after the pandemic, it's great that you have a busy schedule and that you get a lot of opportunities. But I read one day on the Facebook of a harpsichordist, like, yes, I'm having a free day, and this year I only have 4 free days, and this one I will spend it with my daughter. And he was like super proud, and I was like, is that the life we really want? I mean, I also realized that, like some modern instrumentalists who are making a very big career, sometimes they even it depends on whom, but there are some who also don't play so much because they realize I cannot just live in a plane, and I cannot just be every day in a different country. And I think that the idea is actually to get not so many concerts, but with very good conditions, and with programs that you can play several times without having this, like modern pianist thing that they only play for 2 years the same program, which I think it's also horrible.
Yeah, I mean, would be great.
Yeah, I mean, of course, then you are so fed up, and the music's. I think of just playing the same. I think there should be some kind of balance, no?
It's funny you should say that, because 2 weeks ago now, I did 2 projects, one after the other, and I was asked to play us. It was an honor. I went to play in a bassoon festival. I played a solo concert, and I got to pick my program and that sort of thing. And I went up there, and from Maastricht, which is like not the easiest place to get to by train, to Leipzig, and then from Leipzig to Basel. And it was 6 days from leaving the house to coming back, and there were only 3 days of work. And 3 of the other days, the days I was not working, I was on the train all day. Yeah. And I actually was more stressed on the travel days because the trains kept being late, and I had to keep finding a new way to get somewhere, And of course the train conductors are like, oh, it's fine, you'll get there, and you're like, yeah, but I want to get there now, and you realize that you can't, like, I mean, it's impossible for you to have a career where let's say you play 4 days, that's just not possible for you to travel that much reliably and always be there. If you only have 4 free days in your entire year, that's just not possible. Some of that stuff is going to get missed through transit. I just don't understand how you can handle stress in terms of your quality of life.
I know some people who just have this character that they are never stressed and they just enjoy it, but I'm not like that. I wouldn't be able to deal with it.
So are you considering getting a manager?
Yes, I'm. Yeah. There's call for managers.
Okay. I'm so curious, among people of our generation in classical music, how many of us are just alone out there fighting the good fight, or who of us has a manager, and how's that going, and how do you get one of those?
Yes, I'm now having the same questions because as I said, I think in my career I had quite a lot of luck that they were asking me many things without myself having to do a lot of work. But of course I also see, okay, I need to do a bit more, because if not, I mean, some months I can live from this, but others will be difficult. And in the future, I need to kick it. So actually, I think it has the question that it's the early music and the classical music is so obscure that you. And I actually got an interview with a manager some days ago, and he told me like, yeah, the classical music scene is like this, like you are living in a house in your apartment. And then you get to know suddenly the gossip of someone, like of 2 years, of a neighbor of something happened 2 years ago. And actually the gossip was always there, but you just didn't know it. And he meant that, yes, I mean, the connections are there, everything is already there, but it's that we are not getting into contact with these people and not having the right attitude.
So it's that it's a bit behind the industry in general.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally agree.
I guess that with
but
actors and
managers want to keep it that way because they're the ones with the connections. No.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Well, depends. For example, he told me that in Spain, even the classical music managers don't have so much connections between themselves. I don't know who is interested in that. Everything is so obscure and so difficult.
So you would say that the kind of program material that you offer is quite niche or obscure?
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's a very new thing, and it's very difficult to get people to be interested in it, and yeah. But I don't know if I understood completely what you mean.
I guess I'm just curious, how would you convince somebody our age who has never encountered a fortepiano concert before?
Yes.
How would you say it to them in like 5 sentences?
Ooh.
This is your challenge.
Well, I would say to someone of our age, that would be difficult. I mean, if it's someone who really loves music, I think many people, of course, of our age are very bored of going to, well, they see classical music as elitist. Early music, it's a bit like the alternative stuff. So basically I would say, well, if you want to listen to the late 18th century and 19th century repertoire in some kind of context that is just not this very ritualized concert hall with all of this etiquette and so on, and also played in a different way of how we've been hearing Beethoven and Mendelssohn and Brahms for now almost a century. Well, bit less than a century, but then it's a good place to go to try to look for historical instruments, because at least I think it's refreshing for many people to for example, now the mother of my boyfriend is not about fortepiano, but she listened now to Beethoven Ninth with Saval, and she said, it's the first time I listened to it with historical instruments, and it was like listening to it for the first time. She's not a musician, and she was like, I was hearing suddenly voices that I never knew that existed. So I think with the fortepiano is also something like this.
Yeah, I'd like it if we all asked ourselves this question more often.
Yes,
I think.
I think one of the things going on that framework, I was listening the other day to a flute player and a fortepianist. So they were playing original instruments, and they were playing 19th century repertoire. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I think, early 19th century. But the point is that this was repertoire which any flute player would play. And listening to it on the historical instruments, obviously these performers were very good. And I'm not saying that just anyone can pick up a 19th century instrument and the music will sound better. That's not at all true or any of that. But when I hear this, I hear the music, I hear the instruments and the music that the instruments were built for that music, and vice versa, the music was written for those instruments and so on. And I simply hear something which is far more enjoyable than a modern pianist and like a completely silver boom style flute. And it just doesn't, I mean, I hear the technical stuff, but I see it as a sort of exercise in the modern sense. And so much of the modern repertoire is built on stuff which actually we could do today all playing on original instruments. So like most of this 20th century canon is playing 19th century music, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to think about that, this historical instrument as a kind of parameter in the performance. And when we have a modern performance on modern instruments of Brahms, for example, we took that parameter away, or we replaced it, I guess. But then you added this back in, and of course that changes the entire character of the performance. It's actually a major change.
Yeah, but I actually wanted to say I also have a problem with, because I'm specialized precisely in that repertoire, that that with 19th century repertoire, especially with these canonic pieces and with fortepiano specifically, there are of course a lot of modern pianists who are playing fortepiano, and there are also a lot of fortepianists who are playing fortepiano, but without doing a real research about performance practice. And I shouldn't say this, but a big percentage of recordings nowadays with fortepiano have nothing to do with performance practice criteria. And of course, the instrument and the setup changes already a lot. I think what is also interesting to keep in mind is that actually the modern piano was already invented by 1850.
Totally.
It was just that it was there and it was not the most popular one, but still people knew it. Even if you go up to the beginning of the 20th century, and they were performing on kind of modern instruments. Of course, the materials were a bit different and so on, but at the end the mechanic was the same, but still the style of performance was so different. And for me, it's a bit the difficult part also sometimes to explain to the public, well, maybe not to the public because the general public doesn't care about what you are doing, but like to critics and to other musicians who are used to these canonic pieces played in a certain way, to suddenly listen to them with other features of performance.
That's the difficulty, I think one of the problems in general for when you're approaching people who, especially when you say the canonic way, and we mean in the most modern way possible, there's, I won't tell the story, but the difficulty is that if they hear not only the canonic piece on a more historically appropriate and geographically appropriate instrument, also with the performance practice, that becomes so different to them that it's like cognitive dissonance. They're like, it's not possible. What am I hearing? This is
Absolutely.
This is wrong. This is wrong. I
Malfunctioning.
can't listen to that. Sometimes the reaction can be really violent. But then you have maybe a recording that they like, which you go, ugh, because it's on the fortepiano, but it's basically a modern player who's been given this instrument to record this CD, then they play with all their modern technique, and everything that they grew up with stays the same. But that becomes more accessible to the person who's pure canonic, and maybe I wonder if that approach, when they listen to the recording, which we're like, but it's okay, but that is a gateway drug to everything in the way that we would like it to be done. Maybe they might be more open later.
Yes, actually, that we'll see what happens. I think, as I said, as a performer who is dealing with 19th century repertoire and late 18th century, you have to explain yourself a lot. And you have always to explain what you're doing, and many times even if you explain it is not enough, and it's not a problem. I think with what is happening now with classical and 19th century is a bit what happened with the Baroque music in the 80s, that now it's starting, and there should be like an explanation. And there's also the problem that the research is like somewhere and the performance is somewhere else, and it's difficult for them to meet. And then also something which is quite curious, as I was saying, that the modern piano actually already existed, and now there is Chris Bezuidenhout, the fortepianist, he played with the National Orchestra in Spain, and and he played the Schumann concerto. But I guess, well, I didn't listen to the concert, but he was doing some stuff that bothered the critics, because he was probably still playing in a, I don't know.
Appropriate style.
Appropriate style, or at least more fortepiano, HIP-like. But with a modern piano. And then there was a lot of discussion in the comments, because the critic was saying, like, he's playing non-written arpeggiation. How can he do this? And then there were people which deal with HIP commenting super harsh on him. Yeah. How can it be that someone goes to concerts? Actually, in a way that I think you shouldn't use in social media, but also in real person, you shouldn't just approach people in such a way, because it was really hard. I mean, I also agree that they should, critics, not in this specific case, but in general, they should know a bit more what is happening and being a bit, like serious musicologists read. And but many of them are not even musicians, and they know nothing about music. And there were some people who were saying, like, he can do this stuff, but with the fortepiano and with the harpsichord, but not with the modern piano. And it was like, why?
It's funny. It's like you imagine that if we're going to play on modern instruments, like if you're a historical player who maybe also plays modern or came from modern, and so you could go back to modern, that someone else expects the second that you pick up your modern instrument that you have to follow the modern aesthetic 100%. I find that bizarre.
How often is it that you make a decision when you're working on your version of a canonical piece or any piece? How often is it that you make an artistic decision that goes completely against what's in your research?
I try that not very often, but I think that I guess it happens with every period, but I have actually a couple of examples. But of course I try that it goes against the research as little as possible, but also from the research you also see that they were playing in such different ways, and that there was just not just one way of playing. So actually taking your own freedom and developing your personality as an artist in the 19th century was so important that actually doing some very personal stuff would actually be in style in a way.
I think people oftentimes, especially in our HIP world, we forget that. That people were human just like they are now, and there's so many diverse ways of doing something.
And there, for example, we got to actually a situation, because with my complicated situation, because with my ensemble, I always try to have someone who is more in the research part and not so much into playing or plays, and try to also to do a bit of playing, so that we can learn from these people who do, because many times they don't have a career as freelancers, then they can do extreme stuff without being worried that they will be judged, while people who are in the market, we are much more judged. And we had this situation that, for example, with the Archduke Trio of Beethoven, we know that the premiere was a complete chaos, and he messed up like crazy. It was horrible, apparently. And then apparently there were two musicians who listened to him, and they annotated the metronomes of what he was doing. But the thing with that was that it didn't work.
Right.
And then we were also discussing, we were just discussing, like, should we play the last movement in the metronome that we know that someone listened that Beethoven did? And I was a bit like, yes, well, I have a lot of notes, and there will be critics in the public, and I don't know if I can really do this.
So the metronome markings were fast.
We're horribly fast in Beethoven. Many times they are almost impossible. And that's the thing, that in modern performance there are some like standards.
Right.
Or it's not technical perfection, because I don't like this word, because I think technique is something else. It's just, being able to do a lot of stuff musically that you really like and having the ways of doing it physically. But in the sense that it should be like clinical, should be clean, there shouldn't be wrong notes and this stuff.
And if you are pulling off a run and a key drops, you still are able to push the key back up and keep going.
Yeah. So the thing is that, maybe this piece works with a lot of wrong notes. And then it's the question, should we just accept that we should play this piece with a lot of wrong notes because the tempo is almost impossible?
I love that idea. I think you should recreate the actual disastrous performance. Like,
we could do a reenactment of that.
I would buy a ticket to that. Yeah.
But then there can only be a few people in the audience who really know, right? And then because the critic has to give you a bad critic, and then 5 people are like, "Wow, Laura,
Oh my God.
you are the next Beethoven." Very good. Laura Granero, thank you very much for joining us today.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks to you.
And thank you, Mara,
My
for
pleasure.
stepping in for Grace. And we'll see Mara again. Good. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Like us in your podcasting app. Give us a rating, whatever. Take it easy. Bye-bye.